Welcome back to the Turnbuckle Tavern and another edition of our Visits the Tavern live from the No Sell Studios. I'm the ace of the tavern, Acefield Retro, and I am joined today by a very special guest, the Dracula Kid, Sam Hain. What's up, man? How you doing?
Cheers, brother. I'm doing great. How are you?
Swig of beer for the working man.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah, bro. So, man, this is the first time I'm hopping on here with you, but you and I have been chatting it up for a few months at this point, both of us working remarkable. It's been a blast, so I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on here.
I appreciate you having me. I think your podcast is awesome. I think the way that you've been featuring, up and coming wrestlers and also going back and doing some nostalgic stuff, old pay-per-views and reviewing that. It's really cool.
I really appreciate that. And you guys can check out Shot of Nostalgia, ECW 1995 season finale. You guys just watched it here on Turnbuckle Tavern, but we'll be starting WWF 1998 next Friday. So, Sam, I'm sure you'll be into that. You and I were chatting about old school wrestling, so you're welcome to hop on that any given time.
Yeah, I would love to. I remember we were, I think at the last Remarkable show, we were talking about Survivor Series 2002, because I think we were going back and forth about the flyer for the next Remarkable show.
Which I have right here. I'll show it on the screen for everyone. This is black and white, but this is straight from Kono's printer. But Survivor Series 2002 inspired. So, yeah, that was fucking awesome. But let's get into it, dude. So we're about a month into 2023. You just competed at the aforementioned Remarkable Wrestling 2 weekends ago for Sky's the Limit. How would you describe your 2023 thus far? It's just underway, but I'm sure you have some feelings about it.
Well, it's just underway, but I would say the real work is just getting started. I didn't exactly walk out of Sky's the Limit with the victory I would have liked. I mean, I think me and my brother and tag team partner Liam, we straightened out the situation for the time being, but the record books will not show AEW next to the Midnight Cowboys name. So, we're definitely looking to rectify that. I mean, I believe on the next show, we're just in a Royal Rumble, the Remarkable Rumble match. So, we won't be tagging per se, but, I'm sure we'll be helping each other out in there. And hopefully it'll just come down to the two of us in the finals. And at that point, may the best man win.
So as Sam mentioned, Remarkable Wrestling presents Better Than the Best 2. That'll be from Deer Park, New York, February 24th on the birthday of Kono Capuccia. So that will be a fun event.
Happy birthday, Kono. Happy early birthday.
We're going to have a 5-on-5 cage match, the Steel Cage War Zone, a.k.a. War Games, man. It's going to be a hell of a show, but we'll get into that in one sec. But your moniker is the Dracula Kid. We see it on the screen here. It's something that you really sort of emphasized, especially in the ring with some blood and really the vampire lifestyle. But what was the original influence of that?
Well, I mean, the vampire lifestyle, I mean, for me, it's not a gimmick. It's a shoot. I'm nocturnal and I drink blood, but I'm using it as like a jumping off point for wrestling, because I think what I'm really trying to do is like hone in on this crossover between like heavy metal and hardcore music and wrestling, because like ever since I like got into this stuff, both wrestling and music, like as a young kid, I got into them kind of like concurrently, and I just kind of always noticed this crossover. So I feel like playing up the vampire side of my life, I'm really able to I feel like that's like it's a gateway for fans who may not be familiar with the culture of heavy metal and hardcore music. It's just kind of to communicate that like the angle at which I'm coming into wrestling, for lack of a better way of putting it. I feel like the vampire stuff, it's like, the darkness, macabre, and like gothic aspects. I just think it communicates that to your everyday fan who may not be educated on the subculture that I kind of like came up in.
Of course, man. And you mentioned the creative outlets you have on the side, and let's mention them, shout them out. So Stabbed, NYC Shootout, Blame God, other projects out there. So tell us a little bit about that. And does being a part of a metal hardcore band influence your in-ring presentation? I would say it does, but what are the similarities?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it does. I mean, I think that the biggest similarity that comes to my mind between wrestling and music, I mean, I feel like the like getting yourself booked in the promotional aspects and the networking, like that's all like very much the same. You know what, like working the independents is very much a thing in music just as much as it is in wrestling.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I'm sorry. So as far as the in ring stuff, yeah, I think with that I just bring like a different flavor than basically like anyone else, not only in Remarkable but also like in wrestling. Like I would say the list of guys in wrestling that like have a music career, it's very short, right? Like, you know, you got the like Jericho's probably the biggest one. You got Brody King, the Butcher. I mean, I guess John Cena, if he can, like he had that
Yeah.
album in 2005, but yeah, I guess what I'm trying to do is just bring like a slice of you know, being at a hardcore show or metal show to wrestling shows. And I mean, I think that there's like a huge I guess market for it, you know, like the, you know, I can't go to a like a metal show without seeing someone in wrestling merch. And I feel like that it kind of goes both ways, you know, like I feel like there's always someone at a wrestling show wearing a Pantera or Nine Inch Nails shirt, you know. And I mean, well, the music stuff I go very deep into. Like, you know, I love like the classics. I love, you know, your Metallica, Slayers, Panteras, and whatnot. But you know, in my time of just playing and exploring music, I've definitely you know, found some, you know, the deep hidden corners of the underground. So I'm kind of trying to, you know, to take some of those vibes and bring it into wrestling, because I feel like there's not really anybody else that's doing that. And you know, and that's with all respect to you know, the guys I mentioned before, bringing their you know, their musical flavor into the wrestling business. You know, I'm a huge God's Hate fan. I've seen them multiple times. I saw like the last God's Hate set right before Brody debuted on AEW, so I thought that was pretty cool too.
Hell yeah, man. And the thing is, too, I mean, that you mentioned before the crossover with the fandoms, there's a huge crossover with wrestling fans and metal and hardcore fans. What do you think that attributes to? Is it just this sort of connection through this violence that people are relating to?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go to the right metal show and the right hardcore show, so you could definitely on the dance floor, you could see some you know,
True.
you'll see like a spin kick, you know, similar to, you know, something that you might see Gabe Sky or Tristan Ty doing in the ring, you know, like, you know, people are throwing their limbs around. You know, the intent is different, you know, and it's just it's a different ball game altogether. But you know, just like just watching it, you know, it does have a similar vibe to it, I guess.
100%. Let's get back to your name, Sam Hain. It's I mean, it's interesting because it ties with Halloween, love of all things ghoulish. By definition, the main difference between Sam Hain and Halloween is that Halloween is a calendar holiday, while that Sam Hain's date could vary depending on the time of year, because at the time of its inception, there were no calendars as we know them. So I guess speak to that. And just from the inception, if someone hears you coming out, they automatically think of like an autumnal vibe of the harvest season, and that adds to the macabre feel.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to tap into. And to add to that, I have a birthday in October, so you know, I just always kind of felt that kinship to the fall and October, and you know, the ghoulish season. I do share a birthday with Eddie Guerrero, by the way. I guess
Wow.
now would be a good time to throw that in. But yeah, October 9th. I think Stevie Richards too might also be a October 9th guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, your average wrestling fan would necessarily get the reference of it, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's an easy thing to say. It's chantable. It's two syllables.
True.
So yeah, I think it definitely works. I think it's definitely you know, I was working with a couple other names before that, but I definitely think this is this is definitely it. I like it. Yeah, and another thing is the band Sam Hain, Danzig's
True.
project in between the Misfits and Danzig was also called Sam Hain. The album cover of their record entitled Initium. I saw that at a young age, and it kind of like shocked me because it's just the three dudes in the band with blood just like all over. It's just a photo of them covered basically head to toe in blood. So yeah, like it's kind of like it's an Easter egg for those that might get it, and hopefully for the uninitiated, it still kind of puts like an image in your head of who I am, but before I even walk through the curtain.
Yeah, and it's perfect too. I mean, you don't want it to be too on the nose because that's too on the nose. You want it to be something that's obscure where someone Googles Sam Hain, you're gonna pop up, and then that's also gonna pop up, and then you're gonna also have the Danzig album pop up. So that's the kind of stuff you want to be sort of associated with, and I think it's perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a little bit weary of the Google ability, just because of the things that share the name. But hopefully, if you type in the Dracula Kid Sam Hain, you'll get all the wrestling stuff.
100%. And I mean, we talk about the wrestling and we can get into music, but what's something more challenging than you originally anticipated as you started your career wrestling?
I mean, I would just say wrestling in general. I guess like I guess I would say around the time of like when I was first breaking in, I was mostly just trying to like get big. But I guess what came to surprise me was like what in-ring cardio actually is and how it differs from regular cardio. And yeah, I think once I got past, just running the ropes, taking a bump, and I was doing, more advanced stuff in the ring, I was like, all right, I can't just skip cardio because I want to not lose weight and put on pounds. I need to find a way to make it all work, make it all come together. I want to have an imposing presence in the ring, but I also want to be able to go, especially, when you look at Remarkable Wrestling, you got Gabe Sky wrestling like 20-25 minutes. I want to be able to hang too. It's like, I don't necessarily wrestle that same style, but I look at some other big guys that I kind of came up watching when I was like getting into indie wrestling, like your Brody Lees and Claudio's. I like how they can kind of straddle the line between kind of like an old school big man, but also be able to work on like the more technical and hell, even high flying side.
Yeah, 100%. That's been sort of the hybrid that's been created by these bigger guys that are challenging themselves athletically, because gone are the days where you can work the style of Big Show when he was in WCW and also, Andre the Giant, to go as far as back as that. And then you even mentioned muscular guys, those big guys that used to just work at a slow pace, like especially on the independents. If you want to get noticed, man, you have to move at a pace that, like you mentioned before, the cardio has to match sort of the athletic ability. And that's challenging for anyone that doesn't have their cardio up. You'll be blown up pretty quick if you're in the ring.
Yeah, I would say, I guess what one piece of advice for anyone that wants to start training is just, make sure that stuff's on point, because there will come a time when you're in there and you'll be in for a rude awakening if you're not ready,
So, I mean, in the ring too, like, this is not a question I intended to ask, but I guess it's a good time to, is if you get blown up, man, like what is the go-to to sort of get your bearings? So we all had the wind knocked out of us. And when you're running or you're doing something where your cardio is at compromise, usually it's not in front of a live audience where you have to perform. So what is the go-to if you do get blown up? Is it like rest hold, or are you just like, let me just push through this?
Well, I guess for someone like me, that's a little bit on the bigger side. I mean, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm 6'3", like 245, but in most of the situations I've been in up until this point, at least, I'm usually the bigger guy in the match. So I would use that to my advantage, kind of just like dig deep, hit a big power move to kind of give myself a window of opportunity to, you know, catch my wind, or like you said, like a hold where I can, you know, really grind my opponent down and also catch my breath a little bit. I would say that those two things. And also I guess connecting with the crowd. I think that you could definitely feed off their energy a bit when you're out there. And I've noticed that, you know, every match I've had in Remarkable, the crowd reaction is just better and better every single time. I think it's awesome. There's definitely fans in there that had, like, I recognize they've been at every show or almost every show. You know, they like know who's in the ring. So yeah, I can kind of, you know, I can hit my big power move. I can grind my opponent down with a hold, and I can kind of just get up and, you know, hype everybody up. And that also kind of helps, you know, but bring my head and body back into the game.
So you mentioned the crowd reaction, and going back to Sky's the Limit for a second, your comeback, taking out Percy Ryan at the end of the night, or end of the match, I should say, got one of the biggest pops of the night. You and I were discussing it about that moment and everything that went into it. And it was the perfect transition to that hot tag where you finally had that moment on the apron. What did you think of the reaction? And then I guess speak to the budding program with Percy Ryan and Jesse that's been developing over time.
Well, I mean, the reaction was just amazing. You know, that was the highlight of my night. I wish I could have, you know, been in the match and done more, but I do think everything I did mattered. Like, you know, the crowd loved it, and, you know, that's what really matters at the end of the day. Like do I wish I could have hit a couple more cool moves if you know, Percy and Jesse weren't cheating? Like, yeah, sure, but you know, I did what I could. You know, unfortunately their cheating ways did prevail. You know, I would say Jesse got his. I mean, I'm not finished with him. You know, at any time I see him, you know, it'll be on. I hope I get to get a piece of him in the Remarkable Rumble, and the same goes for Percy Ryan. I mean, I've you know, I've been across the ring from him countless times. I like beating him up. You know, I think he's just a huge piece of shit. You know, that Percy Ryan, like he goes around calling himself the jawline of professional wrestling, and you know, he just makes guys like me who just want to shatter his jaw into a million pieces. You know, so you know, he's tied up in his you know, steel cage warfare 5-on-5 that he kind of got himself tied up in. You know, is he in over his head? Is he not? You know, we can only find out when you know, when the time comes of better than the best two. But that being said, like I said, for Jesse, same goes for Percy Ryan. I would love to get my hands on him in that Rumble. I'd love to throw him over the top rope along with all 28 other people. And I say 28 because that there's one Liam Jacobs who, you know, it'll hurt to throw over the top rope, but, you know, this is every man for himself, and I think he would understand. And you know what, I would want him to do the same. I wouldn't want him to just climb over the rope for me. You know, may the best man win, like I said.
100%. And we've been mentioning Remarkable Wrestling a lot. You guys can follow Remarkable_Wrestling on Instagram. You guys should check them out. Next show being February 24th in Deer Park. So that's better than the best two. Get tickets. You can check out my link in the bio. I have it always pinned on the top of my page as well. But, you know, they continue to mold you into the professional wrestler you are today, trained by Kono Capuccia. What makes Remarkable so special? And speak to the training regimen that sets it apart. I mean, I've been at the practices, getting ready for shows with you guys, doing my own thing, making sure I have all the info right for the ring announcing job. But you guys work super hard every time out there, and that's without people seeing it. So I see what goes on behind the scenes, but I guess speak to it for people that aren't familiar with Remarkable Wrestling.
Well, so yeah, there are two parts to your question. I would say they're actually very different. I think what makes Remarkable special, is just, it's the group of guys we have and like the camaraderie. You know, we kind of started as a part of a different organization, and, you know, we kind of all just like stuck together and broke off, and that was kind of like the genesis of Remarkable Wrestling. And Yeah, like most of the guys that are on the show, like I've shared rings with for like the better part of like 4 or 5 years. So we know each other very well. We've like all watched each other grow over the years, for better or for worse. Like Percy Ryan was not as big of a piece of shit when I first met him. He kind of like grew into that. So yeah, I just think like what makes it so special is just like witnessing the evolution, and also just knowing that this is only really this is the beginning of all of our careers. And I think it's going to be cool one day to just like look back and see where everyone in this class of wrestlers is at, and just to say like we all kind of, I mean, we all started at like different times or whatever, but like, just saying like we all kind of converged on this one piece of time, and just like seeing like where all of our careers kind of like branch off from there. As far as the training regimen, I just think Kono is definitely, he's got like a very like, he's got a really, really good like tuned in mind for wrestling. And like I feel like he's got like a really good grasp on both like the old school and like what modern fans want to see, especially being in the Northeast. I just think he just does a really good job of pushing people, and like he'll definitely let you know when you're not you're not on point, and I think that's good. He just has a very like blunt and brutally honest like approach to training, and like correcting certain things, but it's not like a discouraging kind of thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're all there to like see the product grow and like see each other grow. So yeah, I just think I definitely feel very like lucky to have like gotten into the business when and where I did, because of who I'm like surrounded by now. Yeah, like as far as like when I started training, I got to give Tristan Ty a shout out to that, because like wrestling was something I always like wanted to do. Like I've been a fan since I was like 5-6 years old. But like as I got a little bit like later into like adolescence, it didn't really seem like something I like could do, but I always like wanted to do it. And like I did like backyard wrestling in like middle school going into high school. But yeah, where I was going with this was one day Tristan just gives me a call, and he's like, yo, because he lives like just like 2-3 towns over from me on the, or he did at the time. And he's like, yo, this wrestling school like just opened. I'm not gonna like say the name of the town, but it's a like one town over from me, like literally like 5 minutes from my house. And he's like, you got to come through. It's like just me and this guy Kono. He's cool, he's showing me how to do stuff. And like we talked about like how we both wanted to train. So yeah, that was kind of just like the start of all of it right there.
Yeah, and just taking the chance to really just explore. And you mentioned Kono being honest, but he's respected by everybody. So if he brings the feedback to you, everybody, you could just tell that everybody in the room is listening to him. And truly, I mean, you guys check out Kono's body of work too. He's an amazing wrestler and a great teacher. Truly. I mean, he's taught me just so much through like the eyes of someone who's looking at it from presentation of being the ring announcer, and how important that is to the Remarkable Wrestling product. And there is a drive for the show to be better and better. And you can totally see that for Remarkable Wrestling, that every show seemingly gets better. And that's a bar they keep on setting. So I'm so excited for the future and what those events will hold.
Yeah, same. I think, we're just closing in on year one. And I feel like after every single show, it just felt like that was our best show. That was our best show. So it'll be cool to just see how the snowball effect kind of happens, and where we're going to be at like a year from now, or 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now,
100%. And, in Remarkable Wrestling, you do team with your brother, as you mentioned. That must be surreal and fun. I guess tell us the origin of the Midnight Cowboys, the name, etc., and How did that all come to be?
Well, so yeah, Liam and I are brothers, and we've been training together for years, but we kind of were just doing our own things, career wise. And then I guess maybe 2 years ago now, or like a year and a half or so ago, we had a little feud in a couple different promotions in the Northeast, and it kind of culminated with this no-ring death match in Brooklyn, New York. So yeah, we did battle before, but before we started teaming, but excuse me, right after that death match, I was just kind of getting in his ear. I was like, dude, we got to do this tag team. Like, it's good. Like, I just had like the image in my head of like what I wanted the Midnight Cowboys to be. And I don't know if I wasn't doing a good job of like illustrating that to him in words, or if he just like wasn't, or if he just had to like warm up to the idea. But I was just like, dude, like, we got to do this. We got to like this is the vibe. Like, we got to wear trench coats. We got to come out to like industrial metal. We got to make it like a cross between like a metal show and like a late 90s rave, like out of the Matrix movie, I think that that is just like such a vibe that we can tap into that like no one's doing in wrestling now, but it's so definitively pro wrestling, like that late 90s, early 2000s, like I was talking about before, just like the crossover between heavy music and wrestling. Like I want to bring that back, like WWE for the better part of like 15 years has just been using like Flow Rida and stuff for like
yeah.
for like the WrestleMania themes, and it's like I get they're trying to distance themselves from like the grungy like late 90s thing, but like in my head, like that's like what wrestling is kind of like. I mean I love like the sports like presentation of like All Japan Noah and stuff like that, but I also like the 90s just like alternative culture crossover wrestling, and I think it like if we can somehow combine like the I guess Japanese influenced like sports presentation style with like the grungy late 90s style, like that, to me, like that's just like what wrestling is like that's like the wrestling that I came up, because I wasn't around for like Hulkamania and stuff like that, like that was all presented to me as like, oh, these are legends, this happened 10-20 years ago and stuff. So like like yeah, so Stone Cold and the Undertaker, that's like what I like grew up on. Edge and Christian, the Brood, Hardy Boys, stuff like that.
100%. And the thing is too, with, you mentioned before, the perfect blend, and I went back and looked at some videos from 2019 of AEW. I felt like they had that underground feel of like right before, I don't know, WWF got huge, become a publicly traded company. They felt, I don't know, like a giant independent. That's what it felt like with better lighting and better camera work. It just felt like that. And I think AEW, for better or for worse, has moved away from that. It doesn't feel as PWG. It feels more WWE. And I don't know if that's a good thing, but for guys like us, I feel like you and I have a kinship in that we enjoy our wrestling to have a little bit of an edge, and wrestling on a big stage seems to have lost it a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And I had a similar thing where I don't know, I was just on some like internet forum, and someone posted like one of the like 2019 like AEW matches, just saying like, oh, like look how different the presentation is, and it's kind of like we all kind of watch that evolution in real time, and they don't have like a WWE network where you can just go back and watch.
Right.
Well, like it's weird because I feel like they're just getting to that point where like what they're going into like year 4 now, year 3, year 4. So yeah, I feel like it's just long enough where you can say like, all right, there is like a classic era that is distinctly different from like where we're at now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like. And I enjoy wrestling of all different kinds, but I'm sure that as time goes on, another promotion is going to tap into that grunge, because wrestling is cyclical. As we're doing, you mentioned Shot Nostalgia, ECW 95. there's so much of that you see blossom into the Attitude Era, and then everything that was completely stolen from ECW and then WWF enhanced with a bigger budget. So yeah, I just think history repeats itself, and eventually we're going to have that turnaround. I don't know if it's going to come from WWE, but there's definitely going to be more of an edge in wrestling. I just don't know where it's going to come from.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going to come from either, because yeah, like you said, I feel like AEW is kind of leaning into like a WWE style presentation, for better or for worse, right? You know, in the Monday Night Wars, you know, WWF and WCW were kind of neck and neck, and both having that, you know, state of the art for the time presentation, even though like they were both kind of like grungy in their own ways. I guess WCW was a little bit more old school because they had like the NWA roots. The WWF, like, you know, at one point was kind of fighting for their life in the ratings, so they were trying to be, you know, they were more on the cutting edge. But like, yeah, I do think that there is just such like untapped market nowadays, because like you said, wrestling is cyclical, and like on a bigger scale, culture is cyclical too. Like you know, you have like people like 19-year-olds on TikTok are like talking about Deftones like it's like some new thing, you know what I mean? So like culturally, I just think anything in culture, pop culture, it can kind of be applied to wrestling on like a more like niche basis. So I'm honestly surprised somebody hasn't really like capitalized on that more. I mean, like I would say VXS is close, but I mean they're kind of like they're doing their own thing too, which is awesome. I'm definitely a big fan of what Isaac and VXS are doing in terms of just their presentation and the like the way they book their shows and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if I ran my own promotion, you know, I would definitely go the extra mile and try to give like a just a visual presentation that's completely different to what you know what you're seeing on TV. Because I just think like pop culture in general is so like homogenized nowadays. Like all the channels are basically owned by like the same corporation or like the same 2 or 3. So yeah, I like it would be cool even on just like a smaller independent level to see somebody really kind of tap in to the crossover of like an alternative culture in wrestling.
Yeah, and I think like ECW was so ahead of its time. Like, and I not to oversell it, but it truly was.
No, you're right. Yeah,
where the '90s culture didn't really take off in wrestling until we saw it in WWF, but it was happening. You know, the Nirvana influence and Alice in Chains, all that stuff was happening in ECW. And like I said, WWF just took it and stole it, much as WCW stole the Lucha and the Cruiserweights from them and stole their whole town. I mean, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, those guys were just lifted and brought into WCW. So in a lot of ways, ECW was so influential in that Monday Night War of who won. I mean, it was just a matter of who picked the parts of it. It was like you left a car out in a bad city where people were just pulling apart the car. And that was ECW. And they had to keep rebuilding the car, put new wheels on it. And Heyman was able to do it. It was back on the road the next night where he lost Benoit, Malenko, and Eddie. And then all of a sudden he had Ray and Psychosis the next month. So, and Conan, but then those guys were stolen too. Point being is like WWF just took it and ran with it. And I just think ECW deserves its credit.
Oh, absolutely. It really does take a mind like Paul Heyman to like really just be in tune with like first and foremost what the fans want to see, but also like what's bubbling on like that lower level that that's not getting like that mainstream coverage. Yeah, it is super interesting. Like that car analogy, just seeing how, like, you know, the 2 bigger companies kind of cherry picking certain things of what they liked from ECW and bringing that to a more mainstream platform. But I think that probably just speaks to, you know, like Paul Heyman as, you know, a wrestling mind and a businessman, just that he was able to really like I said, WWF was on the cutting edge, but yeah, it was really ECW and Paul Heyman like just tapping into like the zeitgeist of culture and applying that to wrestling. I just think I think the what's on TV right now is it's cool, and I think what they're doing in the ring, like, I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but just from a presentation point of view, as a viewer and as a part of the business, I just want to see something a little bit different.
100%. And, let's get to like the subculture involving you. I mean, you mentioned death matches and getting color and working Necrofest, and not sure if you worked with New Fear City quite yet, but out of the ring, no ring matches has a different vibe, and there is a complete aesthetic and market for that. So I guess speak to just working those types of matches and why it resonates with you. I mean, the character speaks to it, but it seems like a fucking blast, like you're having a great time doing it.
I mean, it's awesome. It's just like the crowds of metal shows just watching you wrestle, and it's kind of cool because you get your wrestling fans, like your Northeast like indie fan, but you also get people that are just there to see like a band play, and then they're like, oh, this like the first wrestling match I ever saw live was two guys beating the crap out of each other in a bar. Like that's pretty cool, I think. And personally, it's like I play drums in a lot of my bands, so out of all the guys that I kind of share the stage with, I kind of have like the least like fan interaction. Like I'm like the most like removed from it. I'm like in the back, I'm behind a drum set, whatever. But yeah, wrestling, you can kind of just go wherever you want, get in people's faces, make sure that they're seeing everything that you're doing, and they love it. It's like you can do anything, and they'll be like screaming their heads off, let alone hitting some poor guy over the head with a light tube, or getting hit with a barbed wire or whatever it may be. And yeah, you mentioned Necrofest. That weekend I like played a set during the day, like wrestled a no-ring death match against Kid Osborne like at midnight, or probably even later, honestly, and then played another set in the next. Yeah, it was my band Exsanguinated death match the following day, Blame God. So yeah, it was a busy weekend, but it's like that's like the kind of stuff I like dreamed of when I was getting in the business. Was like it's like my two favorite things in the world, wrestling and playing music. So like just being able to do them so concurrently and like for the same crowd, and like I feel like I sound like a broken record talking about crossover, but it's like that, like that's it. It's like that's like kind of like what I'm working towards right there. And hopefully there's just more of that. Hopefully there's more of that on a bigger scale. I would love to bring something like that to Remarkable. I mean, I'm not even talking about the deathmatch stuff, because I know like I don't really think that'll be a part of Remarkable, but yeah, like just have a band play a Remarkable show or something like that. They actually started using an NYC Shootout song for.
Yeah, I saw that in the intro video. It was so sick.
So, yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, I'm just hoping for more of that as my careers in both fields kind of progress.
Do you think death matches get a bad name for no reason, where people look at it from the outside looking in and don't really understand it? They think it's blood and guts, similar to any type of thing where people that didn't watch ECW, to bring it back to there, they just judge it based on highlights they would see of Raven being crucified, or anything else went on there where they throw people through tables and New Jack doing dives. Do you think death matches is, because I view it as an art. I really do. I think it's an art form that people don't really respect at the level they really should, especially wrestling fans.
Yes and no. I mean, I think like when people say like, oh, it's blood and guts. I mean, yeah, I would say it quite literally is blood and guts, but at the same time, that's the appeal of it. And like you said, it is an art form, like any other style of wrestling. And I mean, at the end of the day, if it connects with fans, if people are buying tickets to go see it, it's valid in one way or the other, right? But yeah, I mean, like if you're saying it gets a bad rap in the sense of like that's not real wrestling, then yeah, like absolutely, you know, like I think you know the same fundamentals and you know psychology and working a crowd all kind of go into it. I mean, yeah, you're probably not running the ropes, you're not, you know, doing lucha and like mat wrestling, but you know, like it's still wrestling at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the analogy is always ice cream, right? Like different flavors of ice cream. Like everyone's kind of got their own thing of what they want to see in wrestling, you know, what's good, what's not. But yeah, I think deathmatch wrestling is definitely like a valid like subgenre of wrestling, and I think now it's kind of starting to like come around, and you know it's starting to get its recognition, and I think a lot of deathmatch guys are, you know, kind of getting their flowers of you know, just like long-term like bodies of work, like, you know, your Nick Gages, your Matt Tremonts. I mean, and of course you have like John Moxley that, you know, like he came from that world, you know, and then, you know, he's you know, he's on WrestleMania, he's on AEW, you know, like it's yeah, I mean, like Macho Man said, the cream always rises to the top. It's not where you're from, it's where you're at, you know.
100%. You mentioned some other deathmatch wrestlers, and want to give a shout out to Dr. Redacted. He's doing awesome
absolutely
stuff.
Yeah. I did kind of credit Tristan Ty with you know, getting me to act like through the door, signing up for training, but I would definitely not be here without Dr. Redacted. You know, but we did some to put it lightly, I'll say some semi-pro stuff before we really kind of started training and, you know, taking this a little bit more seriously. He was kind of the one that really first sparked the light bulb in my head that's like, okay, I could do this, you know. So I will always be like forever grateful to Dr. Redacted for that. For yeah, I guess just lighting the fire that got me started.
Speaking of being a lifelong fan, earlier you mentioned Stone Cold and Taker, but when did pro wrestling first catch your eye? Were you one of those like mid 90s guys who were just like, wow, like everyone in school is wearing a shirt, I need to check this out? Or was it like a family member or friend that brought you to it?
It was definitely the first thing you just said. It was wrestling was still more of like a pop culture thing than it was now. I mean, I was like really, I had to have been in like first grade or something like that. But like I remember like a kid had like an Edge and Christian folder at school, and I thought that was like the cool. I was like, why couldn't my mom get me an Edge and Christian folder? Like that's like so cool. I mean, now that I collect, I kind of, you know, collect like memorabilia and stuff. I have like a WWF Stone Cold Steve Austin. I have like a Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat folder. I'm looking at it right now, across my room. But you know, at the time when you're 6 years old, you don't have money, you can't get to the store. You know, it's just like, how do I get? Why do I have this boring, just red folder when this guy's got Edge and Christian with their goblets and puffy shirts on it? You know, so yeah, I would say like I kind of caught on like tail end of like Attitude Era, kind of like casual fan, you know, like I liked Stone Cold. But my first favorite wrestler was Kane. Like that was really like it was just so captivating to me. It's like I was like, it's wrestling, but like this guy is like a demon from hell and he controls fire. Like this is insane. And to this day, Kane is one of my favorite wrestlers. I try to like emulate him. I just think he's had such like a great like storied career. He's so versatile, especially considering the gimmick that he's had, and how he's kind of evolved that into, you know, where he like the fact that he evolved being like a demon in pro wrestling into a politician And like it's still kind of like if you just look at his the story arc of his career, it all kind of like makes sense. It's just like wow. But and like the fact that he was just doing all this super serious like horror movie stuff with Taker and Stone Cold in the beginning of his career, and then like he kind of slowly started to humanize and like tagging with RVD and stuff in like the early 2000s, and like kind of then like the whole unmasking thing is it, and then fast forward, he's kind of doing the like the same thing he did with RVD with Bryan Danielson in WWE. It's just like wow, like how this guy has just like he took what they gave him in 1997 or 8
1997, yeah, Bad Blood.
1997, yeah, and just like but like boy did like he ran with it and did laps, you know what I mean, like it's just it's incredible. Yeah, Kane is awesome.
Yeah, it's honestly it's crazy. I mean, him and Taker are two stories where you watch guys evolve where you mentioned the word shoehorned into two gimmicks that feel like it should be limited, but they opened up that world. And I mean, if you look at a guy like Kane, that should be a short-lived gimmick. We watched gimmicks in the early 90s and the late 80s just fizzle out. It just speaks to the talent. Right, exactly. The talent of Glenn Jacobs to take that and run with it and accept it, because a lot of times you'll like listen to podcasts and you'll hear wrestlers talk about get these gimmicks and they feel like, I don't know, that they don't, that's not what they envision. But a guy like Undertaker too, you look at that, that's a profession gimmick where it should be looked at as goofy, but he took it and turned it into, I mean, the eras of Taker speak for themselves. I mean, American Badass, or even like the Ministry Taker, and then like the late Taker too at the tail end of his career where he was putting on those banger matches against Shawn Michaels and Triple H. I mean, there's so much.
That final boss Taker. He like involved himself into being like the final boss of wrestling, and it was so awesome.
So fantastic, man.
Yeah. I feel like his match with Punk at WrestleMania 29
right,
is kind of slept on. And I mean, I feel like that was the last match where, I mean, I guess it was the last match before the streak ended, so it really did feel like the last match that had that like kind of tension of, like at every kind of kick out like could have been the end. And I mean, Punk's heel work at the time was like absolutely phenomenal. Like just being a fan and watching him, like when Paul Bearer died and like he poured the urn ashes like on him after like attacking Taker from behind, I was like, wow, it was so old school, but at the same time, it was just it was just perfect for the time.
Yeah, I mean, I was at that WrestleMania, so that was the highlight of the night for me. That was the match of the night, and even Punk's tights being Taker inspired, and that also too. It's funny you mentioned that everyone thought they're on the edge of their seat, thinking they would give Punk the opportunity to end Taker's streak, and no one really thought it was possible. But there was that slight chance. But I remember going into WrestleMania 30, just so confident that like, oh, I don't understand why they're doing Taker Lesnar. They worked the program in 2003, and they've sort of had this long rivalry where he was the American Badass and they did the Hell in a Cell, all that bullshit.
Yeah, like the Hell in a Cell over 10 years ago. So it kind of just felt, it was like, oh, again? Like, really?
100%. When the match happened and, Heyman was doing all the promos, like, he's going to be the one to beat him and end the streak. I never bought it, dude. So when I'm watching that match, I just remember where I was, how I felt, everything about that moment. And for better or for worse, I was upset. I still am sort of upset that the streak ended. But at the end of the day, I've never been that shocked in pro wrestling ever.
Yeah, me neither. And I mean, I think hindsight is 2020. I think we all probably could have thought of better ways to kind of capitalize on that. But everyone always says wrestling is about the moments, right? So like I think at least for the moment of Brock winning, like that I don't even want to say it's lightning in a bottle, because it's like 20 plus years of buildup, which, like, I feel like lightning in a bottle is just like a momentary thing that you kind of get by accident. But like there will never be another moment like that, just because I don't think there will ever be another Undertaker or like an Undertaker streak at WrestleMania or something of that caliber. It's just like, I don't know. I think I remember reading about it. I don't think they like even acknowledged the streak as a thing until WrestleMania 18 when he
He
beat
put
Ric
his hands
Flair.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he put his he's like, all right, I'm 10-0. Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. I mean, like, what would I have had Taker wrestle? I don't know exactly the number, but would I have had him wrestle 5 WrestleManias after the streak broke? No, probably not. Uh, like, I don't necessarily think the like rub of Brock beating the streak transferred to like anybody else because I think Brock was already legit. But at the same time, it made for like I feel like you couldn't have a Brock Heyman promo for like 4 years without that getting brought up.
So we mentioned Taker, we mentioned Kane, and obviously those guys have influenced your in-ring style and presentation. You really emphasized, in my opinion, power and agility in your moveset. I see some influence from Bradshaw, maybe a little Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
Who specifically are you watching tape from if you really want to, get to the level of like, oh, you know what? I need to tone up and get a little bit more fresh of what I want to do in the ring.
I mean, you just named 2 of them right there. I've always been a fan of Bradshaw from the Acolytes all up until JBL. I think even I don't watch it all the time, but like when I turn on Raw like every once in a while and I see that he's with Baron Corbin, that's like my favorite part of the show. Like I just think like psychology wise, like and just like his promos, like I just think Bradshaw is like phenomenal. Yeah, but Bruiser Brody too, like just presence, intensity, like unpredictability, just like having this like unhinged kind of like caveman like quality to him. I always kind of looked at him for that. Not going too far from either of those guys. Stan Hansen's another big one, just like once again like intensity, just using his size like so smart, just beating the absolute piss out of guys in Japan. Like I love watching those matches. Randy Orton's a big one. To me, he's like the ultimate guy you would want to watch in terms of like no wasted movement. Like everything he does matters. He's just so smooth. Like he's just able to do the most out of the least. Like he can just like milk everything in the best possible way. I think he's great. And like I just think he's kind of like aged like a fine wine. Like I think like the Orton. I mean, I know he's hurt now, but like the Orton we kind of had last year. It's like I feel like every like couple years, like he kind of like gets on this streak where he like kind of like doesn't give a fuck. Like he seems like he doesn't give a fuck, and he's like just having fun. But that's like the best. Like that's like when he's at his best. You know what I mean? Like everything he's doing in the ring is like second nature to him. It's like I feel like the run he had with Riddle as a tag team, his run in 2011 when he was like feuding with Christian over the world heavyweight championship, the probably like 2014 2015, like that authority run, like all those like kind of like stick out as like highlights to me of his career. And like I don't want to say he's not limited at all because he's like super athletic, but like just the fact that he like he just knows like 4 things that he does so well, and the crowd just eats it up. I just like aspire to get to that level of just like connection with the fans. Whether he's like cracking jokes with Riddle backstage, or he's punting Stephanie McMahon in the head and kissing her unconscious body while Triple H is handcuffed and watching. It's like I mean, yeah, you want to talk about versatile. It's like here you have a guy that's more or less looked the same for like 20 years. Like he's just been jacked, chiseled, good looking guy. Always had for most of his career just black trunks with a tribal design on it. It's like he's really kind of just like honed in on who he is, and like brought out different aspects of, I don't even want to say his character, because it just feels like almost like 100% authentically himself. Like when he was younger, he just had this like, you know, just brash, like no give a fuck attitude, like, and then like, you know, he kind of in the last couple of years kind of played up the fact that he's like a veteran, and he, you know, besides like R-Truth, I can't really think of another guy who's like actively wrestling other than when he's like the fact that he's hurt right now, but at like actively wrestling that's been there for as long as he has, you know. I mean, I guess Brock, you know, like he's not on Raw every week wrestling, but like, yeah, you know, you have just from that class of early 2000s guys, he's still going. I'm trying to think of maybe some people that would be unexpected. I mean, how can you not be? I've always been a huge Jeff Hardy guy. Like, just
we talked about Jeff Hardy, not a sky's limit on your comeback.
Yeah. It's just like, he's so cool, man. And you know, I think there's a reason why, like, no matter what he does, like it doesn't matter if he's been away for a year, you know, if he's been on TV, he's just always over. Everybody loves Jeff Hardy. And like, he hasn't been a heel since, like, I mean, I think he had that run in Impact where he was a heel, but like, besides that, it's like a John Cena-esque run of just like everybody just, I mean, honestly, I'd say Jeff Hardy, for the better part of his babyface run, is more unanimously loved than John Cena, because Cena had that era where he was kind of,
right.
It was like 50, like he was presented as a babyface, but like the crowd was like 50-50. And then, you know, over time, it kind of like went full circle. And now like Cena kind of went away. Everyone misses him. And, you know, he, like, I feel like that kind of catapulted him to that legendary status. But Jeff Hardy, it's like, yeah, he just comes out with a paint doing his like this Jeff Hardy thing, man. And like, I just think that like that just speaks to like wrestling, just like finding who you are, that like what it is that is uniquely you. Like Jeff Hardy tapped into that 110%. I've always
a music thing too. Like he's very tied in with that as well.
That's true. Yeah, he does have I don't know how to say the name of his band, so I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, I forget what it is, but I know he's the front man, so it's like very influenced. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe I overlooked that before. But yeah, I've always loved Rey Mysterio. I mean, I'll never wrestle like him, but but you know, I just think his style is like so cool, and like the way he was able to use the size that he's been given and play that to his strength and just come off like basically a superhero is just unbelievable. Rob Van Dam's another guy, Sabu, Edge, Christian. Yeah, I guess Punk, you know, during his days in Ring of Honor and his days in WWE, I was definitely, you know, he had me hook, line, and sinker. I was just the right time and place to be that CM Punk fan at the time.
Yeah, he read the anger resonated with a lot of people. And let's transition to the year in wrestling that was 2022, and CM Punk played a really large part of that. And 2003's right here, and it seems like the news is getting crazier and crazier, but news cycle never stops. I'm sure you see it all the time, but are you following the dirt sheets, backstage stuff? Are you reading stuff or stuff that just pops up on your timeline you'll consume?
I'm not following it as much because you know what? I'm finding the more I'm involved in the wrestling business myself, like I feel like I don't really want to expose myself to that kind of information because I feel like it doesn't necessarily help my own career to like stay like I kind of like now with wrestling, I want to like laser focus on what is going to take my career to the next level. I'm focusing on who my opponents are and like the landscape of where I fit in currently, and I'm trying to watch classic tape of stuff that's not necessarily current, so I can kind of take influence from stuff that isn't going on right now. Actually, I trained with Grim Reaper for quite a while, and one time I asked him, I asked him like, oh, who do you like now? Like who do you see that is like that's catching your eye? And his answer was not what I was expecting, but it kind of like resonated with me. He said like I don't watch anybody current. I don't watch TV, like what's on TV. I don't even like I'll watch my opponents, and like I'll watch the shows that I'm on to make sure I'm doing something different, but I'm not even keeping tabs on the promotions that like the promotions shows that I'm not on, because I don't want to be influenced by what's going on. So I feel like that sentiment kind of sat with me, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me like, so that kind of inspired me to just get more in touch with like my roots of like when I first got into wrestling. So like, but basically most of my tape watching goes to, you know, excuse me, Ruthless Aggression, like Attitude Era stuff, like early 2000s indie stuff, ECW, 90s Japan, and then I try to watch, you know, old like AWA, NWA territories, like the 90s Smoky Mountain stuff is really cool to watch too. Yeah, just really trying to like take what's old and make it new again.
Yeah, so you mentioned ROH, so I'd be amiss if I didn't mention everything that went down about a week ago with Jay Briscoe passing away tragically.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Jay Briscoe moment that is like that sticks out in your mind? Because I've been having this conversation with people on air and also off air, and we're gonna get to see Mark wrestle. Full transparency, this by the time this airs, he would have already wrestled Jay Lethal on Dynamite. But just in general, man, that seems like it was so far from happening, and we're gonna get to see Mark Briscoe on AEW television.
Yeah, I mean, it like first of all, I just want to. It's absolutely tragic what happened, and it's just terrible that it took this to get Mark Briscoe on the like the spot that he's at. I mean, I'm happy that it's happening. There's a few that stick out in my mind. There's just like there's this one promo that him and his brother Mark cut leading up to a match at Hammerstein Ballroom that I got to see in person between Red Dragon and the Briscoe brothers. And like this was around the time when like me and like a group of my friends would we would like go to all the like Hammerstein Ballroom Ring of Honor shows for like a stretch of a couple years. So in one of the promos, they're just kind of poking fun at the fact that like they were kind of like Davey Richards' proteges at the time, and like they were poking fun at the fact that they do like jujitsu and like martial arts, and they were like, "This is pro wrestling, brother." And then and they're like, "Terra Funk ain't got no mouthpiece. Bruiser Brody ain't got no mouthpiece." And like me and my friends would just like quote that like all the time, and like I still think about that. I just think it's like so awesome. I like this their promo style was just like. It was just so real and authentic, like, and yeah, with his unfortunate passing, like, it did get me, like, what, like, I like, you know, because the videos are only like 5 to 7 minutes long, so I would just like watch Briscoe's promo after Briscoe's promo, and it's just like, man, like these guys are so cool, just like drinking beers with their shirts off in the back of a pickup truck on their chicken farm, shooting guns and shit. I'm just like, yo, these guys are the coolest, man. And yeah, like I said, going to those shows during that era, I'm lucky that I've gotten to see them wrestle live quite a few times. I distinctly remember a spot at what I think this was actually not Hammerstein. This was like they did it at Terminal 5, and they did Final Battle at Terminal 5 one year,
right?
And it was a fight without honor, and like I just remember. I think Jay Briscoe got like thumbtacks like put in his mouth after like already like bleeding like a ton, and like he got the tacks like super kicked out of his mouth. I I remember watching them wrestle World's Greatest Tag Team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, in Hammerstein Ballroom at another one of those Final Battle shows. And yeah, I mean, it just always does seem like the best people are taken too soon, right? So it really just sucks. But I think he left a great body of work behind him. Yeah, I mean, tag and singles, it's like he's just like he's so good, so like just real and convincing of a performer, like yeah, a performer like that doesn't come around every day, like he'll definitely be missed. Oh, another match I want to shout out is his steel cage match with Samoa Joe.
Hell yeah, great match.
2004. Yeah,
it was in Jersey, that one, right? That was it was in Jersey. I think that was for the pay-per-view. I actually posted the reel with the highlights.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that was it. Fantastic. And like that run with him as champ is, I don't think it's underrated because anyone that watched ROH at that time knew how great he was. And the crazy part is he only got better. And it felt like, which was the most tragic part about all of it. You mentioned before, it took this to get Mark on AEW television. And also they were about to be the focal point of what would be an ROH program that was funded by AEW. And it just sucks, man. The rug was pulled out. They were the reigning ROH tag team champions. And, that FTR trilogy was right there. We just literally saw probably their best 3 matches that they've ever had, which is saying a lot of the whole catalog. You can go down the line of matches they had across all different promotions, whether it be GCW, Impact, or go back to the original ROH days. It's so sad that now we're not going to see it. Forever 38, by the way, same age as the Eddie Guerrero, the same guy we mentioned earlier.
Wow.
So, crazy.
I didn't make the connection, but it's kind of crazy how young he still is, like 38, considering how long his career has been. Like he was on the indies before I knew what the indies were. Like I caught on kind of right after. I caught on kind of young for somebody my age, which is kind of cool because it kind of felt like I found, as a wrestling fan, I found something that most other people didn't know about. But right around the time I caught on, it was the Briscoe, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Jimmy Rave, rest in peace, Austin Aries. That whole era was I mean, it kind of ushered in the what we know today of just the current landscape of like AEW, WWE, the past like decade of like NXT and whatnot. Like it revolutionized the business, and I think Jay Briscoe had a huge part of that, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get to enjoy the same mainstream exposure as some of his peers, just based on politics, basically, just based on what networks deem to be suitable for TV and not, so it's unfortunate, but I think and anyone that knows wrestling will will give him the proper credit that he deserves for the body of work that he left behind.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing, we tie it back with music as well. It seems like as time goes on, Jay Briscoe is going to live forever through the fandom of wrestling, just as musicians that lost their life at an early age. Go down the list of all the guys. Don't have to name to mention them, but think about like a guy like Kurt Cobain. It felt like his legend only grew over time. I feel like a guy like Jay Briscoe, people are going to be talking about him, and it's going to be like word of mouth. And it's like, I was there when you mentioned the story about being able to see him in that match where he had the thumbtacks in his match. But all these wrestling fans have these stories from 20 years ago, from 5 months ago, where these guys were grinding on the indies, WrestleMania weekend, working 4 shows in a weekend, where in the same night, GCW and Impact going back and forth. True pioneers, last of their kind, truly, the two of those guys. And I wish and I hope Mark Briscoe continues in the ring, because I think he still has a lot to give, and I can't wait to see him wrestle tonight.
Yeah, and I think what was so cool about their like kind of tag team dynamic is that like they were able to tag, and obviously they had amazing chemistry because they're brothers and they came up together. But also the fact that they had their own like distinct identity. Like it was never like, oh, I don't know like which one's Jay and which one's Mark. Like you always knew. And it was almost like Jay was just like the super intense guy, like just looking at you with like cold dead eyes, gonna beat the piss out of you. And Mark is like he's like doing stuff that he thinks is funny, like doing his like kung fu stuff, but still like I feel like he was able to kind of do something comedic in a way that still came off as like intimidating. Because if I was across the ring from Mark Briscoe doing his
kung fu chicken stuff,
kung fu chicken stuff, I wouldn't know how to combat that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just two legends right there, both Briscoe brothers, man. Yeah, that definitely the last of their kind. Like very for as much as they were a part of that like cutting edge like 2000s like indie era, they still felt like old school, like the like the funks, and like they were definitely just reminiscent of the territory days. Not saying that I was around for it, but like just from my times of tape study and just exploring the wrestling that came before my time.
100%, man. And as we wind down this, and dude, this has been a pleasure. We want to talk about legacy. You talk about the legacy in wrestling and all these guys, legends. And like, let's talk big picture. In a perfect world, if the career goes the way you want it, how do you want to be remembered in pro wrestling? Is it the contributions in the ring or potentially out of the ring? How do you want it to be remembered?
I mean, I definitely want to have like that body of work where it's like matches that people talk about, like one of my favorite matches of all time is Brett versus Stone Cold from WrestleMania 13, like just to have a moment like that like kind of lives on forever, like I feel like you can't have like a Stone Cold or like a WrestleMania like video package without seeing like the blood from a stone moment,
Yep.
And just like the way they had the crowd in the palm of their hands, it's just like I feel like that is like a match that stands the test of time, like regardless of like the era you're in, you can go back and watch that, and it just holds up so well. So I mean, like I would love to have the opportunity to have matches like that where people just like like something that outlives you. I mean, of course I want to get on TV. I want to make as much money as I can, and it is the wrestling business after all. Like I want to be as financially successful through wrestling as possible. But beyond that, I want to be like remembered as just one of a kind, like I mentioned before, like the list of guys that do music and wrestling is so short, and I feel like all those guys have like such a unique thing they bring to the table, and I just hope I can kind of do the same. And I don't want to necessarily rely on music to like, I want the wrestling to stand on its own, but at the same time I just want to be unorthodox to a degree where I do stuff in my matches that's like, oh, only Sam Hain can do that, you know what I mean?
100%, man. And great aspirations, and I honestly think your head's in the right place, and that is honestly, and I think you're super talented as well. I mean, not just saying that, we work together, and watching you up close and seeing the dedication and the passion you have for the business, it's second to none. So I'm confident that you're going to do all the things you are saying you want to do. And speaking of, this show is, like you mentioned in the beginning, it's trying to identify future stars such as yourself, and wrestling at this moment in time seems to have more talent than ever. I mean, on the Northeast and beyond. Right now, if you had to name 3 other wrestlers you'd recommend other people to talk about and discuss and watch to break out in 2023, who would they be and why?
Oh man, only 3?
You can do more than that if you want. Shout out whoever you want.
I mean, like, I just want to shout out like the whole like remarkable crew. I don't want to leave anybody out. You know, it's just like all those guys I came up with. It's just like those guys like brothers. You know, Tristan Ty. I mean, Liam Jacobs, actual brother, but Gabe Sky, Desmond Cole, Dominic De Niro, Chris Barton. I mean, listen, man. Percy Ryan and Jesse Danielson, I don't like them, but yeah, like I can't sit here and tell you that they aren't putting in the work. You know what I mean? Like, but like being a professional, setting personal issues aside, I can sit here and tell you that those guys do have passion and talent. Another guy I do want to shout out is Christian Robinson, the psychedelic psychonaut, he's based out of South Jersey. Definitely one of my favorite opponents I've encountered this far. I also want to shout out Casanova Valentine for putting me on. Yeah, I mean, like, and of course Kono for just showing me all this stuff. Grim Reaper too. You want to talk about legends from the like the late 90s, early 2000s kind of indie explosion. He was right. He was at the forefront, kind of revolutionizing the in-ring style with all of them. The slime balls too.
Love those dudes.
Yeah. Great guys. I hope I can do more with them in the future. Adonis Stone doing some impressive stuff in year one of Remarkable. I met him on like I don't know if I was there the day he walked in, the specific day, but he kind of started training right around the time I was training with Reefer a lot. So just seeing him from square one to where he's at now, I'm but like proud as a friend to see where he's at. Yeah, I mean I just want my whole circle of guys to prosper, and I want that their careers to blossom just as much as mine, so we can all kind of take over the wrestling business together and run that shit one day.
100%, man. And thank you again for joining me. And before I let you go, this is your moment to give people a few things that people should expect from Sam Hain as we go to 2023 and beyond. Upcoming bookings, things you're looking forward to, music as well.
Well, I mean, generally speaking, you can definitely expect chaos and violence and blood from the Dracula Kid Sam Hain anytime he's in the ring. As of right now, I'm just working Remarkable. I would love to break out and work for some other promotions. The promoters are sleeping right now, but that's okay. Kono will get to say that he was the first one to truly put me on, and Cass for putting me on some New Fear City shows. Music wise, the Blame God LP just dropped this past Christmas. You can expect LPs from Stabbed and Exsanguinated, NYC Shootouts, The Hustle Continues LP dropping mad soon. LP from Bowel Erosion. My band Reeking Aura dropped an LP on Profound Lore Records last year. My record label, Black Earth Records. I put out tapes and vinyl and CDs for a lot of projects me and my friends are involved in. I also book shows in like on Long Island and New York City area. What else? Yeah, I guess that's just about it. I mean, my Instagram handle is right there, Shark Funeral. Basically any project I'm involved in, I will I post on my story. Oh, another Total Invasion. That's another band. We just dropped our Invasion Zone EP through Indonesia's Brutal Mind Records a couple days ago. I'm at Demon Style 420 on Twitter, and yeah, keep watching Remarkable Wrestling. If you want to see me wrestle somewhere, tell a promoter. I'm not hard to get a hold of. So yeah, hopefully by the end of 2023, you see me pop up some new places. But for now, I'm honing my craft on Remarkable Wrestling.
Hell yeah. And you guys saw the ad here, but if you're listening for audio only, it's at @shark_funeral. Make sure you follow. I'll include the Twitter and the Instagram in the bio of both the audio and the video. Sam, this was a pleasure, man. You're always welcome to pop on. And I really mean that about Shot Nostalgia 1998. I'll send you the schedule, potentially have one of those episodes that resonate with you, maybe like a Rumble. We have that one coming up the first episode, or even WrestleMania 14. One of those, we're going to have you on. You can discuss it with myself and Mike Belcast. It'd be great to get your perspective.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I very much appreciate you having me on and giving me a platform. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I think what you're doing is awesome. I think giving a platform to young and up and coming wrestlers is great. And hopefully it helps get all our names out there. Hopefully, and we can expose your podcast to our audiences too. And I think what you're doing with Remarkable is awesome too. And I think your ring announcing work is great.
I appreciate that, man. The kind words. And you guys can catch Sam Hain on. He's going to be on Shot Nostalgia, guys. So you haven't seen the last one. And this has been Visits to Tavern. I appreciate it. We'll join you guys next week. We're going to be having Brother Greatness on next week. So stay tuned for that.
Well,
Can't wait to check it out. Yeah, great guy.
Great
this
guy.
has been Visit the Tavern. We'll catch you guys next time.